Hello and welcome, Lanita Ellis, the Scrappy Grandma. And this is our weekly Bible reading um, portion. And this is take two for me. I recorded it already and my microphone wasn't working and I had to charge it. So take two. So this is week 36 of the Torah portions, and it's Beha'alotcha. And it means when you set up. So before we begin, let me pray. Father Yah, thank you for the opportunity to do this again. I I'm just so thankful for you and your ways and how you teach us, lead us, and guide us and direct us. And Father, this goes out. This is for your good pleasure. This is for your glory. So, Father, don't let anything come out of my mouth that's not of you. Let this be edifying and uplifting to the body. And Father, just bless everyone who is listening. In Yeshua's name, amen. Okay, so it is Torah. The Torah is Numbers 8, 1 through 12:16. And then the prophets is Zechariah 2, 14 through 4:7. And the New Testament is Matthew 14, 14 through 21. And Beha'alotcha, Beha'alotcha, something like that. When you set up is the 36th Torah portion, and it details the Israelites' preparation to journey from Mount Sinai to the Promised Land. It begins with instructions for Aaron to light the menorah and consecrate the Levites for the Tabernacle service. The Israelites observe the second Passover, Pesach Shini, for those unable to celebrate it at the appointed time. As the journey begins, the cloud of God's presence and silver trumpets guide their movements. However, challenges arise. The people complain about hardships. Moses feels overwhelmed, and God appoints 70 elders to assist Moses. When the Israelites demand meat, God provides quail, but their ingratitude leads to a plague. The portion highlights themes of leadership, gratitude, and reliance on God's guidance, reminding us to trust in divine provision amidst life's challenges. So, interestingly enough, he has been giving a lot of us, a lot of the women in our discipleship group, the opportunity to practice and learn these things. And me, most recently, on my trip back to Tennessee to the women's retreat. Um, I had been dealing with a lot of anxiety about traveling by air. And because the last time I traveled by air a few years ago, um, I got really sick and had to fly home really sick. And, just felt like, okay, I'm not yet ready, healthy enough to travel. And so just I've had a lot of anxiety, and then the anxiety lifted. And then I was feeling great. Got on the plane, did the whole thing, and then things started to shift. Well, as I was waiting there, where was it? Let's see. I was originally supposed to fly from San Jose to LA, from LA out to Tennessee. And while I'm sitting there and waiting for my flight, because I got there 2 hours early and breezed through TSA and everything. And then I get a notice that my flight is like 2 hours delayed. And so, I go up and talk to them and they reroute me. And so they rerouted me through Eugene, Oregon, and then through Denver. And right before we landed in Denver, I get a notice on my phone that my flight has been that I have been rescheduled onto a different flight, leaving at 5 a.m. the next morning instead of, whatever time I was supposed to leave that afternoon from Denver. And so I got off the plane and I started to panic. And Then it got worse. I ended up with an employee that is not very good at his job. And he was really unkind. And at this time, like I'm barely holding on, and he tells me that, I'm like, what do I do? Where can I sleep? And he goes, well, you can go sleep on the floor. And I'm just like, you would ask an old lady to go sleep on the floor? Would you tell your mother to go sleep on the floor? Type thing. And he just got really aggressive and really unkind, very rude. And so I actually had to walk away. I'm crying. I'm calling the ladies that were supposed to come pick me up because that's all changing again. It already changed a few times. And then call my husband and I literally almost decided to just have them give me a return ticket and I would go back home because I was like, I just, it was more than I can deal with. And, um, and they ended up making it right. I talked to a supervisor and they comped me a hotel for the night and dinner. And the gentleman who was rude to me got a talking to. And, but then Angelina, the next morning, my friend, she messaged, she was, when they were going to come pick me up, but with all the changes and stuff, they were going to have to come pick me up at 11:30 at night, 10:30, 11:30, something like that. And the airport was an hour plus away from where they were staying. And so it was, and I gave credit to the enemy. Oh, the enemy's just trying to prevent me from making it there, blah, blah, blah. And then Angelina's like, no, this was the Father. The Father allowed this because this way everybody got to rest. And when I came in the next day, two other ladies also came in, and Elizabeth was able to come pick us all three up at once instead of making several, 2-hour round trip drives to come get. So it all worked out in and so the moral to all of this is that we really need to start trusting his provision. And when it changes, and it's that whole count it all joy. And, the trying of your faith works patience, and he's going to allow us to be pressed and crushed and stretched and sifted to refine us, to make us more like him, to help us to operate in the callings and the gifts that he's given us for his body. And so anyway, um there's a lot of things that happen, but this is Torah portion one. I'll go over all the rest of those in my Living in the Way video. This one, let me go come on, where's my thing? There it is. Okay. Share, and it'll take me a moment. So I'm going to do that one and move me over here and make me a lot smaller and move that up there, make it a lot bigger and share. All right. There we go. There it is. All right. So we are in Numbers 8:1. Adonai said to Moshe, tell Aharon, when you set up the lamps, the 7 lamps are to cast their light forward in front of the menorah. And Aaron did this, and he lit its lamps so as to give light in front of the menorah, as Adonai had ordered Moshe. Normally I try to have these videos done before our Torah portion call, but we just had I did, and I didn't have my mic working. So we just had our Torah portion call. So we've already just gone through this. So you get the benefit of me adding in some of the things that I learned that were fantastic and interesting during our call. So he was to set all of them up to put the light forward, and that it would also point towards the middle. Um, hold on. So they were all to go forward and towards the middle, which is it's called the servant, and it is points to Yeshua, to Jesus, and it's the one that first gets lit. And this is one of the things that we learned today is that Aaron takes fire from the altar, which the Most High lit at the very first when in the first offering, and he burned it up, and so he kindled the first fire. And Aaron's taking fire from the Most High from the altar, and he lights the servant candle, and in that, then the servant candle lights all the other candles. So kind of cool. And how, it's pointing Yeshua's the servant candle, and he gives us light. And then our light is to it also points towards the table of showbread, which is the word, the bread, the living bread, the word, and Yeshua also. So just really beautiful. And then, here's how the menorah was made. It was hammered gold from its base to its flowers. It's hammered work following the pattern Adonai had shown Moshe. This is how he made the menorah. And you think about it, the menorah, like this is very simple. The menorah had leaves and flowers and petals and cups and all these intricate things that were beaten out of, one chunk of gold, which my brain still can't comprehend how it was done this way. But, and that one, is once again, we've got the middle, and that is the Messiah. And then all the branches come out from the Messiah. And just how I can't wait to someday be able to see the original menorah in just the workmanship and the artistry of being able to make this chunk of gold into a beautiful, intricate thing with petals and leaves and flowers and cups and things. It just Anyway, so cleansing of the Levites. So this is super interesting. Adonai said to Moshe, take the Leviim, the Levites, from among the people of Israel and cleanse them. Here is how you're to cleanse them. Sprinkle purification water on them. Have them shave their whole body with a razor and have them wash their clothes and cleanse themselves. So when I was reading this, recording it earlier, it just hit me, and it was a conversation that we had when we were out at Jacob's tent, in Tennessee, that a gentleman was talking about how, hold on, let me, all right. Well, you may have heard my conversation. You may have not. I don't know if I do this right or not, but anyway, had a phone call. So, okay. So where are we at? So Adonai said to Moshe, take the leaven, for shaving the whole body. So this gentleman got up and I don't remember even what the conversation was about, but he talked about how all of our hair is dead. So it's alive under the skin, but once it comes out of the skin, it's dead. All of this is dead. So they were shaving all of their old past dead stuff off of their body for a clean, fresh start. Um, so I thought that was really interesting. And everything that we eat and process it all, they can test our strands of hair and find all kinds of mineral deficiencies and different things like that. And so you think about, everything that they had done prior in their life, and everything had come out in their hair, and it was dead, and they shaved that all off and then wash their clothes and cleanse themselves. So then they take a young bull with its grain offering, which is to be a mix of fine flour with olive oil, while you take another bull for a sin offering. And you're to present the Leviim in front of the tent of meeting and assemble the entire community of the people of Israel. You will present the Leviim, the Levites, before Adonai, and the people of Israel will lay hands on the Leviim. And Aaron will offer the Leviim before Adonai as a wave offering from the people of Israel, so that they may do Adonai's service. The Leviim will lay hands on the bulls, at the head of the bulls, The one will offer for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering to Adonai to make atonement for the Levites, the Leviim. You are to place the Leviim before Aaron and his sons and offer them as a wave offering. In this way, you will separate the Leviim from the people of Israel, and the Leviim will belong to me. Now, the originally the firstborn was supposed to be the priest of the family. And so because of the golden calf, and they committed, the sin of worshiping the golden calf, the only ones that didn't were the Levites. They were kept themselves set apart. They did not participate in the worshiping of the golden calf. So to the father, that proved their fidelity, their loyalty, their passion to stay serving him and not be tempted into. And so at that point in time, he he decided to go take the Levites as his priests instead of the firstborn. And so the firstborn belonged to him, but he made the priests, they redeemed the firstborn and became the priests. And, we all have a purpose that we were created to live out in our lives, a calling, a gifting, our gifts, our callings. And, we can't covet other people's gifts and callings. We have to be satisfied in our own and be thankful for how he's made us and the gifts he's given us, because we're the only ones that can take that and serve the body with it. And we need to be able to serve the body with our gifts and our calling. So after that, the Leviim will enter to do service in the tent of meeting, and you will cleanse them and offer them as a wave offering. Because they are entirely given to me from among the people of Israel, I have taken them for myself in place of all of those who come first out of the womb, that is, the firstborn males of the people of Israel. For all the firstborn among the people of Israel are mine, both humans and animal. On the day that I struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sent them apart for myself. So when he struck all the firstborn of Egypt, and the spirit of death passed over all of the houses that had the blood on the doorpost and the lintel, but then he consecrated all those firstborn. He set them apart to himself. They were to be his priests. But I have taken the Leviim in place of the firstborn among the people of Israel, and have given the Leviim to Aaron and his sons from among the people of Israel to do the service, to serve the body of the people of Israel in the tent of meeting, to make atonement for the people of Israel, so that no plague will fall on the people of Israel in consequence for their coming too close to the sanctuary. And so, sorry, got a notice and got distracted. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you think that this is a high honor, and in our world, where priests and pastors are elevated, and celebrity status for some of them and everything, it's the complete opposite. The Levites were to serve. They were to care for the things of the Father. They were to serve in the capacity of offering the offerings and the sacrifices, and they were to be fit. And because their job, the priests, you think of a priest or a pastor, and they shepherd their flock, and they're the leader. These guys did hard labor. They did the sacrifices. They had to be able to, wrangle a bull and goats and ox and sheep and birds, and but they had to be able to lift these big hunks of meat, and they had to be strong, and they had to protect the tabernacle and the things of the tabernacle. Um, so this is what Moses, Aaron, and all the community of the people of Israel did to the Leviim. The people of Israel acted in accordance with everything that Adonai had ordered Moshe in regard to the Leviim. And the Leviim purified themselves, washed their clothes. Then Aaron offered them as a holy gift before Adonai and made atonement for them in order to cleanse them. And after that, the Leviim came to do the service in the tent of meeting in front of Aaron and his sons. They acted in accordance with Adonai's orders to Moshe in regard to the Leviim. And it's interesting because they, they were given this place of honor and elevation, but then they were also, like I said, they were there to serve, and they didn't have inheritance, they didn't have property, anything like that. Everything they had, but they had proven themselves to be faithful in that they trusted the Most High. And in that, they are commissioned to live a life of complete and utter reliance and trust on Him for their provisions through the people, through the body, everybody doing their part to make sure everything is covered and handled. So, retirement of the Levites. So Adonai said to Moshe, here's the instructions concerning the Leviim. When they reach the age of 25, they are to begin performing their duties serving at the tent of meeting. And when they reach the age of 50, they're to stop performing this work and not serve any longer. So 25 to 50, like I said, these men had to be strong. They're, butchers and, hanging, thighs of ox or a bull, it's heavy, hard work. So, but after 50, then they will assist their brothers who are performing their duties in the tent of meeting, but they themselves will not do any of the work. This is what you are to do with the Leviim in regard to their duties. So that's so cool how he has it completely spelled out for them on how they're to serve the body. Passover celebrated. So this will be their first true Passover out in the wilderness, because their first Passover a year before was when they left Egypt. And so Adonai spoke to Moshe in the Sinai desert in the first month of the second year after they had left the land of Egypt. And he said, let the people of Israel observe Pesach at its designated time on the 14th day of this month. At dusk, you are to observe it. At its designated time, you are to observe it according to all its regulations and rules. And Moshe told the people of Israel to observe Pesach, Passover. So they observed Pesach at dusk on the 14th day of the month in the Sinai desert. And the people of Israel acted in accordance with all that Adonai had ordered Moshe. But there were certain people who would become unclean because of someone's corpse. If you touch the dead, then you're unclean and you have to go and wash and wait till sundown. And if that happened right on the Pesach, then they were unclean and not able to participate. So they came before Moses and Aaron that day, and they said to him, we are unclean because someone's corpse. But why must we be kept from bringing the offering for Adonai at the time designated for the people of Israel? And Moshe answered them, wait, so that I can hear what Adonai will order concerning you. So he went to seek the Father and what to do with this situation. And Adonai said to Moshe, tell the people of Israel, if any of you now or in the future generations is unclean because of a corpse, or if he's on a trip abroad, nevertheless, he is to observe Pesach, because Pesach is one of the three foot celebrations, and that's where they have to come to wherever the tabernacle is. And so, but he will observe it in the second month on the 14th day at dusk. They are to eat the matzah and the maror, bitter herbs, with the Passover lamb. So they get a second chance so that they can stay in God's rhythm. Because I'm learning, and it is so beautiful, that his Sabbaths and his new moons and his feasts and festivals, his appointed times are this beautiful cycle. And through the counting of the Omar and everything is to continuously tell about how good he is, how well he provides, what a wonderful God, Father, he is to us. And it's this beautiful rhythm where he is at the foremost all the time. He is front and center. And man, I tell you, our lives have changed so dramatically since we started. And we don't do it all perfectly because we don't know what we're doing, but we practice and do our best in the Sabbath, the new moon, the feasts and festivals. It just, what a difference it makes once you start flowing in his rhythm of how he has everything set up. Your life just seems to Click. Are things so hard? Absolutely. But they're hard with a purpose, I guess. Anyway, so they are to leave none of it until morning, and they are not to break any of its bones, the lamb, and they are to observe it according to all the regulations of Pesach. But the person who is clean and not on a trip and fails to observe Pesach will be cut off from his people because he did not bring the offering for Adonai at its designated time, and that person will bear the consequences of his sin. If a foreigner is staying with you and wants to observe Pesach for Adonai, he is to do it according to the regulations and rules of Pesach. You are to have the same law for the foreigner and the citizen of the land. So the foreigner, there were other people from other nations that left with the Israelites. You got to figure Egypt was decimated. Its crops had been destroyed by the hail and the locusts. Its animals had dropped dead. Its cattle. Well, they didn't eat cows, but they worshiped them. But their water was turned to blood. There's frogs. There's corpses, and then there's dead. The firstborn, all the dead. I mean, Egypt was completely decimated. So I'm sure that as many people that realized we've got nothing here, and the God who did all of this is pretty intense and incredible, and we think we need to follow him because he far outdid any of the gods in Egypt. And so they attached themselves to the Israelites, and here they are being given the invitation to come along and join them in the celebration of the Passover. So the cloud covering the tabernacle. On the day that the tabernacle was set up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, that is the tent of the testimony, and in the evening over the tabernacle was what appeared to be fire, which remained until morning. So the cloud always covered it, and it looked like fire at night. And you think about this, a cloud covering, it's covering the people so they're not getting sunburned. And the desert, it's not hard to be out in the desert if you've got a nice cloud covering. And then at night in the desert gets really cold, and you've got fire, and it's dark, dark, dark. And imagine back in those days, it's dark, dark, dark because there's no city light, you know, nowhere. And so it's dark, dark, dark. So his pillar of fire at night lights up the camp and maybe brings warmth to the camp, and the cloud by day brings coolness and covering and safety. So but this also teaches them to live moment by moment, seeking and following him. Whenever the cloud was taken up from above the tent, the people of Israel continued their travels, and they camped wherever the cloud stopped. And at the order of Adonai, the people of Israel traveled, and at the order of Adonai, they camped. And as long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they stayed in camp. Even when the cloud remained on the tabernacle for a long time, the people of Israel did what Adonai had charged them to do and did not travel. Sometimes the cloud was a few days over the tabernacle. According to Adonai's order, they remained in camp, and according to Adonai's order, they traveled. Sometimes the cloud was there only from evening until morning, so that when the cloud was taken up in the morning, they traveled, or even if they continued both day and night. When the cloud was up, they traveled. Whether it was 2 days, a month, or a year that the cloud remained over the tabernacle, staying on it, the people of Israel remained in camp and did not travel. But as soon as it was taken up, they traveled. At Adonai's order, they camped, and at Adonai's order, they traveled. They did what Adonai had charged them to do through Moshe. So, this is what we're supposed to be working towards. Getting up every morning, and I've likened it to strapping myself into a roller coaster, which I used to really like when I was younger, and now it's painful. Roller coasters are terrifying and painful at times, um, and thrilling. But he's got us secure. So even though we're on this terrifying, sometimes painful, sometimes thrilling and exhilarating and exciting um, roller coaster, we are secure in him. He has us secure, and we just allow him to let us know what we're supposed to be doing each and every day. And that's something that we can practice and lay things down when we realize it's like, oh, I've taken control over this. Let me give it back to him. And and I do realize I'm in a unique situation where, I am retired now. I'm no longer having, to work a job and keep a schedule like I used to. But still, um, I mean, when you're out and about and dealing with the world, and if we remember that we're secure in that roller coaster and that wherever he's taking us is where we need to be to better become who he created us to be. So some of those painful, scary parts of the roller coaster are refining us to be that part of the body that the body needs us to be. So the silver trumpets, Adonai said to Moshe, make 2 trumpets and make them of hammered silver. Use them for summoning the community and for sounding the call to break camp and move on. When they are sounded, the entire community is to assemble before you at the entrance of the tent of meeting. If only one is sounded, then just the leaders. The heads of the clan of Israel are to assemble before you. When you sound an alarm, the camp to the east will commence traveling. So the camp to the east is the first three, and there's four. There's the east, south, west, and north. And there's three, 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 and three for the 12 tribes. And so the camp at the east, led by Judah, will start traveling. And then everybody, there's an order that we'll get to down later. When you sound the second alarm, the camp to the south will set out. They will sound alarms to announce when to travel. However, when the community is to be assembled, you are to sound, but don't sound an alarm. It will be the sons of Aaron, the Kohanim, the priests, who are to sound the trumpets, and this will be a permanent regulation for throughout your generations. So this is something that's supposed to continue. When you go to war in your land against an adversary who is oppressing you, you are to sound an alarm with the trumpets. Then you will be remembered before Adonai your God and will be saved from your enemies. Also, on your days of rejoicing, at the designated times on Rosh Chodesh, which is the new moon, you are to sound the trumpet over the burnt offering and over the sacrifices and of your peace offerings. These will be your reminder before your God. I am Adonai, your God. So we're supposed to blow the trumpet, the silver trumpets on the new moon every month. Israel loves Sinai. On the 20th day of the second month of the second year, the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle of the testimony. And the people of Israel moved out in stages from the Sinai desert. The cloud stopped at the Paran desert. So they set out on their first journey in keeping with Adonai's order through Moshe. Remember last week it set up where everybody is, and we're going to kind of go through it again here. I love his patterns, and his organization is so beautiful. So in the lead was the banner of the camp of the descendants of Judah, who is still there today, still leading the charge, still clinging to the Torah and offering the Torah to the nations. They're still, the Jews are still holding the scepter. They're still following his ways. Not all of them, no. But the true to heart, his remnant, are there. So the descendants of Judah, whose companies moved forward over his company, was Nahashan, the son of Aminadab. Over the company of the tribe of the descendants of Issachar was Nathaniel, the son of Tzur. And over the company of the descendants of Zebulun was Eliav, son of Helon. So remember I said that the east was Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Those are the 3 tribes at the east. So they go out, and as they're going out, the tabernacle is being taken down, and the descendants of Gershon and the descendants of Merari set out after the tribes from the east go. Then Gershon and Merari have carts that they were given to carry the hardware and all of the fabrics and ropes and everything. Each one had what they took care of. And so they are, they're assembling everything on the carts. Then they go out right after the first three, um, because then as they arrive, they can start setting up the tent and everything while they're waiting for the other, for the accessories and the sacred things to arrive. The next banner in the camp of Reuben, followed by companies over his company, was so the leader of the tribe of Reuben is Eleazar, son of Shadur. And so the leader of the tribe of the descendants of Simeon was Shelumiel, son of Tishurdai. And over the company of the descendants of Gad was Elisaph, son of Del. So these are the ones to the south. So the ones to the east left. Then Gershom and Merari left carrying the tabernacle things, or taking on the carts. Then now the south is leaving. And then right in the middle, the descendants of Kahat set out carrying the sanctuary, so that at the next camp the tabernacle could be set up before they arrived. And they're right in the middle, so they're protected. They've got, 6 tribes ahead of them, 6 tribes behind them. And the banner and the camp of descendants of Ephraim moved from forward by companies. Over his company was Elishama, son of Ammihud. Over the company of the tribe of descendants of Manasseh was Gamaliel, a son of Pedashur. And over the company of the descendants of Benaim was Avidan, son of Gedani. The banner of the camp of the descendants of Dan. Okay, so that was the eastern. No, west, south, eastern. Now is the descendants of Dan, and Dan leads the cleanup crew. So the banner of the camp descendants of Dan forming the rear guard. So they're the rear guard, the cleanup crew. And for all the camps, they moved forward by companies. Over his company was Achazar, son of Ammishaddai. Over the company of tribe descendants of Asher was Pigel, son of Akram. Over the company descendants of Naphtali was Ahira, son of Enan. This is how the people traveled by companies. Thus they moved forward. Moshe said to Horav, son of Raul. Okay, so this is how they all went out. And now Dan, like I said, they began the last grouping of 3. They were the cleanup crew. And I had read that they collected anything that was left, that maybe got dropped or whatever from the tribes ahead of them. They picked them up and carried them, and they would return them to who they belonged to. But they also were there to help spur on and motivate the slackers, the ones that are growing weary in following the Most High, the ones who they talk about here real quick. We'll be talking about them, the ones on the outer parts of the camp, the ones who maybe aren't fully committed, or they don't have the zeal. They're a lot like, I feel like I was back for 40 years, where I walked, one foot in both camps, where, I loved God, but I didn't know I was supposed to completely abandon myself, or did I not, chose not to. I didn't want to completely die to self and give self up. I wanted to retain self and love God at the same time. And it's possible, it's just not very fruitful. But anyway, so they, so Dan, they helped clean up whatever was left behind, and they helped to keep the people moving and take care of, a couple of portions back where Amalek was attacking, and Amalek comes in. The spirit of Amalek is alive and well today, and he likes to come in. Amalek, the army of the Amalekites and the king of Amalek, they came in and they attacked the outskirts, the the people that were lagging behind, maybe, they didn't have the zeal of, yeah, let's go do this. They were like, yeah, this kind of sucks. It's hot. I don't like it. I'm hungry, blah, blah, blah. And those are the ones that got attacked. And same here, Dan is helping to spur those on and, keep up. So the people complain. Here we go. And this is so, boy, the Father's really bringing this home with a lot of us women in our discipleship group. He just, in teaching us to practice not complaining and to count it all joy and to realize everything he's doing, everything he allows, he's using to refine us. So if he allows the enemy to sift us, it's for our good and for his good purpose, for what we need to be refined to walk in our purpose and in our giftings as what we were created to do. But the people began complaining about their hardships to Adonai. When Adonai heard it, his anger flared up, so that fire from Adonai broke out against them and consumed the outskirts of the camp, the outliers. Then the people cried to Moshe. Moshe prayed to Adonai, and the fire abated. This place was called Tevrah, burning, because Adonai's fire broke out against them. Next, the mixed crowd, the mixed multitude. Like I said, people came from Egypt that weren't Israelites, but they came with them. And the mixed multitude, in some translations, it's actually called the riffraff. But it was the mixed crowd. They, they don't have what the Israelites have, and they started lusting and longing for the conveniences and the luxuries that they once owned or once had in Egypt. And so the mixed crowd that was with them grew greedy for an easier life. They've been gone a year. They've been traveling through the desert. They've been learning all these things. They've been given all of these instructions that they have to follow. And so they're like, maybe we were better off back in Egypt. While the people of Israel, for their part, also renewed their weeping and said, if only we had meat to eat. So it's like this complaining from the mixed multitude, like a cancer, spread throughout the camp. And then the Israelites also started complaining. And what happens when we complain? Essentially, we are saying that God is not good enough. He is not taking care of business the way I think he should. And that's, a dangerous place to be, because that takes us out of a covering of blessings and puts us into curses. So anyway, then they say, we remember the fish that we used to eat in Egypt, and it cost us nothing, meaning we didn't have to follow all these instructions. We just had plenty of fish and cucumbers and melons and leeks and onions and garlic. And, you have to understand that, Egypt at that time, for its time, was a very, very advanced peoples. And so they had agriculture, and they had the Nile River that provided them with fish and everything. And, it cost us nothing. We didn't have to follow all these rules, but the Israelites were slaves, and maybe some of these other mixed multitudes were slaves also. And then some were Egyptian that, it cost them nothing. They lived there and they were able to, enjoy all of the things that now they do not have in the wilderness. And on top of it, they have to follow all these rules. But now we're withering away. We have nothing to look at but this manna. And first of all, they had flocks. They had sheep and goats and oxen and cows, and they had meat, but they were more so lusting after the conveniences and the luxury. So that, and they said we'd have nothing but this manna. And so now they're putting down the Father's provision, his heavenly provision that is so perfectly it's gave them all their nutrients, everything they needed to sustain life, and he just delivered it to them every day. And they had to trust him for his provision, and that takes faith and that takes work. And they did, some of them did not want to do that. And it goes straight into the beauty of the manna. I don't know why it says man here. It's got to be a typo. But the manna, by the way, was like coriander seed, and it was white like gum resin, like, you would see coming, out of a tree. The people would go around gathering it and would grind it up in mills or pound it to paste with mortar and pestle. Then they would cook it in pots and make it into loaves that tasted like cakes baked with olive oil. When the dew settled on the camp during the night, the manna came in with it. Moshe heard the people crying, family after family, each person at the end of their entrance of their own tent. So they were all separated off to themselves and only thinking of self, what they miss, what they don't have, what they want. Me, I. And the anger of Adonai flared up violently, and Moshe too was displeased. Moshe asked Adonai, "Why are you treating your servant so badly, and why haven't I found favor in your sight so that you put the burden of this entire people on me?" He's like wore out dealing with them. "Did I conceive these people? Was I their father, so that you tell me, carry them in your arms like a nurse carrying a baby to the land I swore to their ancestors? Where am I going to get meat to give to this entire people?" Look, it even rolled off onto Moshe. He's now murmuring and complaining because they keep bothering me with their crying and saying, "Give us meat to eat. I can't carry this entire people by myself alone. It is too much for me. If you're going to treat me this way, then just kill me outright. And please, if you have any mercy towards me, and don't let me go on being this miserable." So he just had a big pity party himself. And this is where the father appoints elders to aid in Moshe in helping deal with all these people. So Adonai said to Moshe, "Bring me 70 of the leaders of Israel, people you recognize as leaders of the peoples and officers of theirs. Bring them to the tent of meeting and have them stand there with you. If I come down and speak with you there, I will take some of the spirit which rests on you and put it on them, and then they will be able to carry the burden of the people along with you so that you won't carry it yourself alone." So it's beautiful. He's not taking anything away from Moses. He's multiplying what he had given to Moses and multiplying it out to the rest of these men so that they can help fully in taking care of this group of all these people. So tell the people to consecrate yourself for tomorrow. You will eat meat because you cried in the ears of Adonai, "If only we had meat to eat. We had a good life in Egypt. All right, Adonai is going to give you meat and you will eat it. You won't eat it just a day or 2 days or 5 or 10 or 20 days, but the whole month until it comes out of your nose and you hate it because you've rejected Adonai, who is here with you, and distressed him with your crying and asking, 'Why did we ever leave Egypt?'" But Moshe said, "Here I am with 600,000 men on foot, and yet you say, 'I will give them meat to eat for a whole month.'" You see, his faith is slipping here. "If the whole flock and herds were slaughtered for them," see, they had flocks and herds, "would it be enough? If all the fish in the sea were collected for them, would it be even that be enough?" Adonai answered Moshe, "Has Adonai's arm grown short? Like, come on, Moses, look what I've done so far. Now you will see whether what I said will happen or not." And Moshe went out and told the people that Adonai had said. Then he collected 70 of the leaders of the people and placed them all around the tent. And Adonai came down in a cloud and spoke to him, took some of the spirit that was on him and put it on the 70 elders. And when the spirit came to rest on them, they prophesied. Then, but not afterwards. So just then they prophesied. There were two men who stayed in the camp, one named Eldad and the other Medad. And the spirit came to rest on them, they were among those listed to go out to the tent, but they hadn't done so, and they were prophesying in the camp. And a young man ran and told Moshe, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. Yehoshua, son of Nun, who from his youth up had been Moses' assistant, answered, My lord Moshe, stop them. But Moshe replied, Are you so zealous to protect me? I wish all of Adonai's people were prophets. I wish Adonai would put his spirit on all of them. Moshe and the leaders of Israel went back into the camp. Quail and a plague. And Adonai sent out a wind which brought quail from across the sea and let them fall near the camp about a day's trip away on each side of the camp and all around it, covering the ground to a depth of 3 feet. 3 feet of quail. I just can't even imagine trying to wade through that. The people stayed up all that day and all that night, and the next day gathering the quail, and the person gathering the least collected 10 heaps. Then they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. But while the meat was still in their mouths, before they had chewed it up, the anger of Adonai flared up against the people, and Adonai struck the people with a terrible plague. And therefore that place was named Kivrot Ta'avan, graves of greed, because they buried the people who were so greedy. From Kivrot HaTava, the people traveled to Hatzerot, and they stayed at Hatzerot. Miriam and Aaron began criticizing Moshe on account of the Ethiopian woman he had married. Now, there's some confusion in here. There's some extra biblical that says that he was actually married to a princess, but he didn't consummate the marriage. And this was while he was in the wilderness before he went to Midian. But in some translations, it also translates, I forget what it was called, but it meant a dark skin, she had dark skin. And the fact that Zipporah was a shepherdess out tending the sheep, and she was, chances are she was very dark skinned. So, but they were criticizing Moses and about his wife, and for he had in fact married an Ethiopian woman. And like I said, different translations say different things here. They said, is it true that Adonai has spoken only to Moshe? So now they're questioning his authority. Has he spoken to us too? Adonai heard them, because they're like, he spoke to us too. We're prophets also. Now this man, Moshe, was very humble, more than anyone on earth. And boy, as we learn about Moses, he was so extremely humble. Suddenly, Adonai told Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, Come out, you three, to the tent of meeting. The three of them went out, and Adonai came down in a column of cloud and stood at the entrance to the tent. And he summoned Aaron and Miriam. They both went forward. And he said, Listen to what I say. When there is a prophet among you, I, Adonai, make myself known to him in a vision, and I speak with him in a dream. But it isn't that way with my servant Moshe. He is the only one who is faithful in my entire household. With him, I speak face to face and clearly, not in riddles. He sees the image of Adonai. So why weren't you afraid to criticize my servant Moshe? The anger of Adonai flared up against them, and he left. But then the cloud was removed from above the tent. Miriam had zarat, leprosy, which not today's leprosy, it's a spiritual and physical ailment from evil speech, criticizing somebody. And how often do we criticize people and realize that we are bringing sickness on ourselves? Miriam had zarat, as white as snow, and Aaron looked at Miriam, and she was white as snow. And Aaron said to Moshe, so he went to Moshe, not to Adonai, Oh, my Lord, please don't punish us for the sin that we committed so foolishly. Please don't let her be like a stillborn baby with its body half eaten away when it comes out of the mother's womb. Moshe cried out to Adonai, Oh God, I beg you, please heal her. And Adonai answered Moshe, If her father had merely spit in her face, wouldn't she hide herself in shame for 7 days? So let her be shut out of the camp for 7 days, and after that she can be brought back in. Miriam was shut out of the camp 7 days, and the people did not travel until she was brought back in. Afterwards, the people went from Hasarat and camped in the Paran Desert. You know, so Miriam had to suffer the consequences. And don't you think that it not only taught her, but everybody else a valuable lesson about evil speech, about criticizing people? And so that is the Torah portion. Now, the prophets, Zechariah down here to 14. Sing, daughters of Zion, rejoice, for here I am coming and I will live among you, says Adonai. When the time comes, many nations will join themselves to Adonai. And this is what's happening right now, is the nations are coming. People from all over the world are coming back and living the Bible's way. They're coming and joining themselves to Israel, to the Jews. Um, and they will join themselves to Adonai, and they will be my people, and I will live among them. Then you will know that it was Adonai Zavawot who sent me to you. Adonai will take possession of Yehuda as his portion in the Holy Land and will again make Jerusalem his choice. Be silent, all humanity, before Adonai, for he has roused from his holy dwelling. He showed me Yehoshua, the Cohen Hagadol, the high priest, standing before the angel of Adonai with the accuser, with Satan, standing at his right to accuse him. And Adonai said to the accuser, may Adonai rebuke you, accuser. Indeed, may Adonai, who has made Jerusalem his choice, rebuke you. Isn't this man a burning stick snatched from the fire? Yehoshua was clothed in garments covered with dung, and he was standing before the angel, who said to those standing in front of him, take those filthy garments off of him. Then he said, see, I am taking your guilt away. I will clothe you in fine robes. They should put a clean turban on his head. They should put a clean turban on his head. So they put a clean turban on his head and gave him fine robes to wear while the angel of Adonai stood by. And then the angel of Adonai gave Yehoshua this warning. Adonai Zavawot says this, if you will walk in my ways and obey my commission, judge my house and guard my courtyards, then I will give you free access among those who are standing here. And this is what we've been talking about, is that when we walk in his ways, we walk in favor and we are under the blessings. Listen, Cohen Godal, Yehoshua, both you and your colleagues seated here before you, before these men, are a sign that I am going to bring my servant Teshma, sprout. For look at the stone I have put in front of Yehoshua. On one stone for seven eyes. I will engrave what is to be written on it, says Adonai Zavawot, and I will remove the guilt of this land in one day. When that time comes, says Adonai Zavawot, you will all invite each other to join you under your vines and fig trees. Then the angel that had been speaking with me returned and roused me as if he were waking someone up from being asleep. And he asked me, what do you see? And I answered, I've been looking at a menorah. It's all gold with its bowl at its top, 7 lamps on it, and 7 tubes leading to the lamps at its top. Next to it are 2 olive trees, one on the right side of the bowl and another on its left. I then asked the angel speaking to me, what are these, my Lord? The angel speaking with me said, don't you know what these are? I said, no, my Lord. Then he answered me, this is the word Adonai to Zerubbabel. Not by force, not by power, but by my spirit, says Adonai Zavawot. What are you, you big mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you will become a plain, and you will be put the capstone in place, and he will put the capstone in place as everyone shouts, it is beautiful, beautiful. And Zerubbabel, this is when they were in exile, and they were being allowed to go back. I'm pretty sure it was Babylon, and it was Cyrus, the King Cyrus, who then commissioned Zerubbabel, I'm thinking this, if I remember correctly, to go back and help start building up Jerusalem again, building its walls, and their houses and all of that. And then next is Matthew 14:14. So when he came ashore, he saw a huge crowd, and filled with compassion for them, he healed those of them who were sick. I love that whenever he came upon, he was upon people, he was filled with compassion for them. It's just so beautiful. It just shows his nature and his character. As evening approached, the Taladim, his disciples, came to him and said, "This is a remote place and it's getting late. Send the crowds away so that they can go and buy food for themselves in the villages." But Yeshua replied, "They don't need to go away. Give them something to eat yourself." "Well, all we have with us," they said, "is 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." And so it's interesting. 5 loaves. There's 5 books to the 5 books to the Torah, which considered the bread of life. The 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish are the 2 witnesses, the 2 sticks. It's just super interesting. And here in a second, he said, bring them here to me. One of the ladies in our group was talking about this, and it was actually her children that were discussing this and connecting the dots, which was amazing. After instructing the crowd to sit down on the grass, he took 5 loaves and 2 fish. So he took the Torah, 5 loaves, the 5 books of the Torah, and the 2 witnesses, or the 2 tablets, two different anyway. And looking up towards heaven, he made a bracha, a blessing. And then he broke the loaves and gave them to the Taladim, to the disciples, who gave them to the crowds. They all ate as much as they wanted, and they took up 12 basketfuls of the piece. 12 disciples, 12 tribes. So kind of cool. Those eating numbered about 5,000 men plus women and children. So there we go. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. This was a real, I'm sorry that I was getting to it late this week, but after traveling and everything, I had to have some down days. And so I'm glad that I was able to get it done. Let me know if you have any comments or questions, or if you're going through the sifting like a lot of us are. I'm actually, it's interesting. I went through my major crushing and sifting a few months back with my dad and everything. And so I've kind of come through it. I'm in a bit of a different season, but a lot of our sisters in our group are going through some major crushing and sifting. And isn't it beautiful how in his cycles of refining us, that he allows us, some of us, to go through, so that then we can be like Aaron and Hur, and holding up the arms of Moshe, of holding up our sisters as they're going through their crushing. It's just, he's so good, and he thinks of everything, and he can be trusted, and we can count on him. And we need to look for that pillar of fire and that cloud. And what are we supposed to be doing each day? Strapping ourselves into the roller coaster and realizing that he's got us. And if we just trust him and operate and be that conduit, that light, the menorah, shining the light out on, and the menorah is shining the light on the table of showbread, which is the bread of life, the Torah, the 12 tribes of Israel. But, it's weird to be the light, shining our light, illuminating his word, the Torah. So, all right. Sounds like my husband's home. So be blessed. Thank you, Father, for everyone who's listening to this. Bless them all abundantly. And Yah willing, I'll be back next week for week 37. Be blessed. Bye.